Welcome in. It's PHNX Cardinals live on a free agent football Monday. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brack. Welcome. If you're new here to your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast, like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. I'm diehard for this man. His name is Bo Brack. Damon Dog behind the mic as the Arizona Cardinals make not one, not two, 3, 4, 5 moves today on free agent Monday, including, Bo, 4 defensive starters added into the mix. Where do we begin?
Oh, man, where do we begin? I mean, maybe we should start with the first agreement that they made earlier today, addressing the outside corner position with Sean Murphy-Bunting. But no, we're not just going to stop there. I think it's unbelievable as far as, not unbelievable, but to watch Monty Ossenfort go to work, and really you could see where he was aggressively emphasizing getting better today, raising the floor, as our guy Jody Ayler likes to say over Fox Sports 910. I mean, they missed out. I mean, a lot of Cardinals fans were getting uneasy. If you're out there on those Twitter streets, they were tough, Johnny.
They were tough streets.
They're in the first 90 minutes of legal tampering, and to see name after name go off the board that this ignorant podcast filled your mind full of glee and wonderment and potential. When you saw guys like Christian Wilkins and Jonah Jackson, guys just continue to get bag after bag, and you're like, hello, Monty, you awake? Your alarm, you forget to set your alarm today? It's legal tampering day. But then he started to go to work and started to chip away and rebuild this defense. And I think that they've got 4 guys that immediately come in and have a role on this team right away for Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis.
I think today you got an overwhelming confirmation that their defense was so behind the 8 ball last year, and they literally got by with duct tape and glue and street free agents and practice squad guys. And today was the first real chance to say, we're going to put an imprint on this team. We shifted through the colander of what Keim drafted, and it wasn't good enough. And we parted ways with some people. We brought some guys back, a la Chris Barnes, that we'll talk about. But for the most part, it's like this is where the rebuilding truly has begun for Monty Ossenfort. And you talk about Sean Murphy-Bunting. First of all, we said on this podcast for some time, they're going to add a veteran corner. They're preferably going to add one in his mid to late 20s, somebody that's got starting experience. And Sean Murphy-Bunting has been a starter for, I don't know, Todd Bowles' Super Bowl defense team with Bruce Arians, was a 2nd-round pick, had a decent year for Tennessee, but he just fits the mold, right? And I think you couple that with the 2 defensive tackle signings in particular today, and it's just like, this is a long-ass season, and we preached this for the better part of this 2-month-plus offseason. The stars for this team are going to come from the draft. They're not going to be overpaid, a la, respectfully, J.J. Watt and Rodney Hudson and Zach Ertz in free agency. But the depth of this team can still be supplemented in free agency. Somebody in the chat, anybody, tell me who started the defensive line for the last quarter of the season for the Arizona Cardinals, half season for the Arizona Cardinals. It's really like Dante Stills, and then you're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall. With the additions today of Nichols and Justin Jones, or Jones, can't remember what his name is. Justin Jones, excuse me, and Sean Murphy-Bunting. It's like all of them collectively could never make a Pro Bowl for the Arizona Cardinals. They're still in infinitely better shape than they were this time last year.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I really do like what we've seen, and we can break it down. We got our guy Q Myers, your boy Q from Las Vegas. He's got a Necessary Roughness, which is one of the flagship radio shows for the Raiders. He's going to give us some insight into one of the Arizona Cardinals signings is in Bilal Nichols. And, one thing that certainly stands out as far as what these players offer, Johnny, is their availability, right? And you pointed this out, and you talk about that defensive line where they ran out 9 different guys on that defensive line throughout the season and have 5 guys land on IR, on injured reserve, where you've got 2 guys that kind of have some Iron Man streaks going on, relative to the NFL, and Powell and Justin Jones. Like, they're available. They're guys that are versatile. They're adaptive, right? They play with violence, especially when we look at that Sean Murphy-Bunting in the defensive secondary. And then Mack Wilson, by the way, great name for a linebacker, if not elite, Mack Wilson. And kind of, I'll be interested to see how he fits in defensively because of how versatile he is and how he started his career and how he kind of just finished that season with the Patriots. But, here's what I saw far too often after each and every one of the Arizona Cardinals signings. And it's not an indictment or me pointing my finger at anybody in the chat, because very, very informed Arizona Cardinals fan base is this signing is mid. I looked at the PFF grades, and these guys aren't that good. I
don't know their names.
When you go to Pro Football Focus and you open it up and you look at Justin Jones, and it's, sub 50, it's not great. And I'm sure he's a flawed football player, but then you look at the numbers, just the raw numbers. This guy led the Bears in tackles for losses. He led the Bears in quarterback hits. He was a big part of that, especially on the defensive line. I was saying this last night where we had over 500 people join us just in an impromptu Sunday night pre-tampering podcast. It was great. Thank you for everybody who showed up or who watched that podcast. But I think that Monty Osfort watches the tape. He's a sicko. He's in his office, just relentlessly going through footage and trying to separate what the numbers tell you and what the film tells you, and then marrying it together. And also the scheme that Nick Rollis and Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing run offensively and defensively, and who are going to be the best fits for that. And I think he's bullish. I would bet he's bullish on the 4 guys that he brought in today.
It screams, we feel like we're close enough to compete for a playoff spot, but we're not going to overspend on one singular player. And listen, I saw the Christian Wilkins deal like everybody else. And while I do think it's an overpay, I also think Cardinals sign him, we're going to be excited. But then you put so much weight into that singular player hitting for you. The Cardinals now have added key depth pieces where if 1 or 2 of them miss, God forbid, it's not going to torpedo your team.
Right.
And none of these moves, by the way, I tweeted this out. The Cardinals have 2 players, essentially, once they cut DJ Humphries, under contract past next year, who aren't on rookie deals, in Jalen Thompson and Kyler Murray. So this was overdue. I never bought the narrative. This show was never subscribing to the narrative out there, which a lot of people hate on the Cardinals, unfortunately, here locally, and they pile on to Michael Bidwell because it's easy, right? And sometimes it's warranted that the Cardinals weren't going to spend in free agency. No, they have a salary cap. It's part of the deal. You have to spend. The Cardinals had to get people on their books. They had to fill a roster out. It was all about who are they going to pick, right? We knew they were going to sign people. Did I think they were going to sign 4 starters today? No, I did not. I assumed by the time we cranked up the mics and went live at 4:30 Mountain Time here in Arizona, we would have at least a couple guys. But unequivocally, these are 4 starters for the Cardinals. The Cardinal defense last year literally had the onside kick with a lead against Philadelphia because they knew they will bleed the clock out on us because we can't stop anybody because of the personnel. Sean Murphy-Bunting immediately becomes, I hope Garrett Williams essentially takes over as CB1, but I think that's unrealistic right now. He's your best corner. Right. He's your best corner right now.
Right.
Justin Jones is your best defensive lineman unequivocally. It's not even close. Nichols, I think there's an argument to be made. He's in that group with Stills. He's a run defender. He's solid. You want those guys on your team. Justin Jones, to me, for the attributes and the statistics that you mentioned, if you put him in there with a Jerzon Newton and Darius Robinson, suddenly now you're cooking with your defensive line. Is it top 10? No, but it's not. Hey, not only is this the 31st or 32nd ranked unit, it's the 50th ranked unit. If we could add all these statistics together, all these players together, they just had to meet the bar of competency on the defensive line. And they've done that and then some, and they have not torpedoed their cap space in the process. These are all, I would say, relatively team-friendly, player-friendly deals where a lot of these guys are hitting free agency for the 2nd or 3rd time, and they're getting a nice payday, and they can come live in Arizona. But you can also move off of them at any point within the next 18 to 24 months and be completely fine. These are not 4 to 5 year deals, Kirk Cousin style, where it's $100+ million guaranteed. This is a flash in the pan deal. These are very similar to what Dennis Gardeck signed 2 years ago with the Cardinals. But the difference is these guys are going to be placed in positions to immediately succeed, a la Kazir White and Yelda Froldholt last year.
Right. And you also see them answer what the Rams have done in free agency, where they're building a strength in the interior of their offensive line, where the Arizona Cardinals, they by far had the biggest weakness on the interior of their defensive line. So when you see LA retain Kevin Dotson, and then they go out today and they sign one of the top guards that was out there, and they're spending close to $100 million total in free agency on the guard position, and they're probably going to kick Steve Avila from the guard spot to the center position. It's well, if they want to play bully ball,
you got to do something.
the only way you're going to survive in the NFC West in the 2 games that you're going to play against the Los Angeles Rams, even if they've got scatback high school vintage Johnny Venerable toting the rock, he could go for 150 with those guards. So you needed to beef up your defensive line. And, Jonathan Gannon told this, we knew this, that they like to run a rotation. And now they have bodies that can make an impact and have a versatile skill set. I mean, the guy that they're bringing over from Vegas, he can play all 3 positions on the defensive line.
Yeah.
The guy you bring over for Justin Jones, he can get into the backfield. He did it 10 times for the Bears for tackles for loss. You got guys that have played with talented edge rushers, and hopefully the Arizona Cardinals can supplement their pass rush more so, or kickstart it for that matter, because they need bodies, they need athletes. But the defensive line was the number one priority. And when guys like Christian Wilkins go off the board, and then a guy who's on deck and Leonard Williams to make, next amount of money at the defensive line position, maybe you're priced out of it. When you run a rotation anyway, why not fill it with guys that can really kind of, in limited snaps, around 50% per game, make an impact?
You're going to need, this team is going to be built and developed through the draft, but you need players to help get you there. And what are you going to do? Not sign play? This was always Mario. You're not going to sign players while you're paying Kyler Murray $50 million and trying to contend? Like Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford, and they would tell you this to your face, had their rebuilding mulligan year. Everybody is going to be pissed. We had 700 plus people in here. Hit that like button, by the way. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. Everybody in here is going to be pissed if they win 6 games next year. They know that. They're not having their cake and eating it too. We're like, you know what? We're going to do another rebuild. We're going to sit tight on our hands, and we're going to let the draft picks and the undrafted free agents get first crack at this. It's like, no, we're going to sign players who we know we can play on Sunday, that we've seen play on Sunday. And then if a rookie comes in, a la Michael Wilson, and beats out a Zach Pascal, then we're going to start that player. If Johnny Newton comes in and kicks ass at training camp, or Darius Robinson or whomever, Byron Murphy II, they will play over Justin Jones or Dante Stills or Nichols or whomever, Bilal Nichols. But again, you want those rotational depth pieces that Jonathan Gannon told us to our face at the Combine. None of these guys are playing 100% of the snaps. Well, if you're doing the math equation at home, it's okay, we're going to try to get 50 to 60% of this guy's best effort over the course of 4 quarters. Mm-hmm. And that's going to allow us to stay fresh, not only for any given Sunday, but over the course of 17 weeks. The Cardinals had no defensive line depth last year to begin with, and then the talent level was so marginal. Suddenly now it's like, it's a respectable group. It's not perfect, but here's what I will say. All of these are defensive moves. Your head coach is a defensive savant. Nick Riles, a lot of people think is a head coach in waiting on the defensive side of the ball. Like, I trust them. If they bring in Mack, what's his last name? Mack Wilson Sr. from New England and Cleveland. And of course, with the Alabama Crimson Tide once upon a time, like, I'm going to trust that they know what to do with him. Just like Kazir White last year. I'm going to trust that they can take somebody like Sean Murphy-Bunting and say, what did you do well with Todd Bowles 2 years ago? And how can we re-examine a way to put you in a position to be successful? What didn't you like that you did last year in Tennessee? That's what these coaches do. So their teachers, their educators is the exact opposite of what Cliff Kingsbury and Vance Joseph did to this franchise. It's a great day. It's a great day to kick off what I think is going to be a robust free agency class for the Cardinals.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I talked to somebody who covers the Titans. And he said that Sean Murphy-Bunting is a good player. He could be anywhere from CB 2-3, plays great in zone coverage, isn't great in man. And guess what? Jonathan Gannon and Nick Riles like to run a lot of zone, and it plays to the skill set of a guy like Murphy-Bunting, who had 3 picks in 4 postseason games in the Buccaneers run to a Super Bowl title. I mean, he's played big boy football. He's played deep in the postseason. He's a vet, but he's not going to be 27 until the start of the season, I think in September. And the Arizona Cardinals, I think, really, it was a nice, savvy move for Monty Ossenfort. I mean, there was no huge splash. And I'm sure Monty Ossenfort, was kind of mulling around these big ticket guys like your Jonathan Grenard, who gets 4 years, $76 million from the Vikings, and Christian Wilkins, who gets $110 million, from the Vegas Raiders, and Van Ginkel, who also made his way to the Vikings, I think, for $20 million, and all these guys who are getting the bag. And I think he made some moves that are going to benefit him, to where your roster gets better. You get these guys in the right scheme, and you're going to see them perform especially going into the prime of their careers at their best clip at the NFL level.
I totally agree. Like, you're going to bank on at least 1 to 2 of these guys playing their best football before the age of 30. And I also think, like, frankly, like, Eberflus did some good things in Chicago. Like, I think higher of Jonathan Gannon than I do of Matt Eberflus defensively. And I like the Cardinals coaching staff more than the Bears defensively.
Yeah.
And I think you could get more out of Nichols and Justin Jones and company. I mean, Nichols had time with Eberflus. Justin Jones had time with Eberflus. Let's see if Jonathan Gannon take him to another level. Sean Murphy-Bunting responded to elite coaching with Todd Bowles. Like, let's see if Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rawls can do that again. And then we saw, like, Mack Wilson Sr. was a PFF darling in part-time starts. Now, they also brought back Chris Barnes, who announced on his personal Instagram 1-year deal. You would assume now the Cardinals aren't going to touch. You would assume an off-ball linebacker in the draft. They took an off-ball linebacker last year. That remains to be seen. But as far as Wilson Sr. goes, he's an elite coverage special team player. And if he starts, he starts. And if not, he plays behind Chris Barnes. That's quality depth. But, I mean, the 3-year contract, Bo, would suggest that intermediate chess piece is probably going to be the starter over Chris Barnes.
Yeah, I think that the latter is the key part. When you look at what they're paying him,
right.
He can make upwards, according to Ian Rappaport, $15 million, but really unique, right? Where he comes in the league from Cleveland, and he's an off-ball guy from Bama, and he plays there basically the bulk of his career. He gets to New England, and they get ravaged up front at the edge rusher position, and they throw him into this off the edge look, and he racks up 5 sacks, and he still shows that he can be good in coverage. And that's what the Arizona Cardinals ask of their outside linebackers, not only to pen their ears back and get after the passer, but also they'll drop guys in coverage. And we've seen Dennis Gardeck in coverage. It's not pretty. So when you get somebody who isn't going to get lost back there in coverage, like Zaven Collins, good things can happen. We've seen, so I think if he's coupled with Kiersir White, even better. Probably, I think he profiles better as an off-ball linebacker still, just because of his size, 6'1", 245. He's not like the type that Gannon has shown to like, where it's these big guys that are Zaven Collins' size, 6'4", 6'5", 260, 270.
I put it out on Twitter. I think the edge rushers come in at some point. There's too many edge rushers available via free agency still. I know that, Grenard got paid a lot of money. And here's what I'll say. Jonathan Grenard's a good player off a 1-year breakout season, 12.5 sacks. If you don't think Nick Caserio and Monty Ossenfort talk, and Nick Caserio probably shared some insight, Monty Ossenfort, yeah, we like him. We pay him some of that. I think that probably leads Monty Ossenfort to look elsewhere. And that's not to be disrespectful to somebody like Jonathan Grenard, but thankfully with Gannon and Ossenfort at the helm, like, they talk to everybody. And they get the skinny on everybody. It's not a coincidence. Now they get a couple ex-Chicago Bears. Of course, we mentioned JG with Eberflus. Mack Wilson, the senior, played in Cleveland. I believe at the same time that some of the coaching staff was in Cleveland. Of course, Ossenfort was with Belichick and company in New England. Like, these all tie in. They all connect. Now, we had a question earlier from, I can't remember who it was in the chat, asking what's going on with the guard market. Did the Cardinals price themselves out? Is this exploding too much? I know that they had concerns about Jonah Jackson, his ability to stay healthy at the end of the year. We had kind of alluded to that. Yeah, Jalen Blair, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Jalen, friend of the program. What happened to the big-time left tackle splash? Because we alluded to it. They're trying to add one. Did the Cards misread the market, or did guys just choose not to come to Arizona? No, they will come here if you pay. We've seen that. The Cardinals, if they offer the most, those guys are going to come to Arizona. I just think right now that market has exploded, and who knows, there's still some quality options available. But when Robert Hunt is getting $100 million to play left guard, like, what are we doing here? And there were a couple big time re-signees before free agency even started to kind of set that market. And I think guard is really important, but at the same time, it almost feels like the prior correction when it came to wide receiver, a la 2 years ago, when Christian Kirk got all that money, it's like, what's going on? It has that trickle-down effect. So I like Robert Hunt. I like Jonah Jackson. That's a lot of money to spend on a guard, especially when the Cardinals have needs everywhere else.
You guys are crushing it with the super chats. We will get back to those, but first I want to go out to Vegas, where we were just there last month for Radio Row Super Bowl week, but we saw this guy the entire offseason, it feels like, out at different Radio Rows, whether it was the Combine or out there in Vegas. It's your boy Q. It's one of the hardest working guys in sports talk radio. And you get an echo coming from, I don't know if that's Q.
We got it.
But let's see if we can get that echo, if he's got it off or not. You want to bring him back on here, Damon? Let's see. There we go. Q, are you there, my man?
I am here. How are you doing?
Thanks for joining us, man. So we want to get into the Arizona Cardinals' latest addition and Bilal Nichols, who spent a lot of time there in Vegas before signing a reported 3-year deal. But Cardinals coveted, like half the league did, Christian Wilkins, but Raiders able to get that job done in the way of a $110 million deal. Was it the money pretty much where Wilkins was going to the highest bidder? What are you hearing as far as how the Silver and Black got that deal done?
I think it's always the money when it comes to free agency, but it also helps when you have a guy like Max Crosby, right? I mean, you got Max Crosby, and you know that that's just going to make his job that much easier. That was something that Antonio Pierce told us at the scouting combine, that it was really a big priority for the Raiders defensive line, was to go get that big dude in the middle, the defensive tackle, because they haven't had that disruptor in a very, very long time. So they finally needed to get that guy, help out with Max, help out with Tyree Wilson, their number 7 overall pick a year ago. Also have Malcolm Kuntz, who came on strong at the end of the season last year. So now all of a sudden you go back to what Antonio Pierce did when he was with the Giants and had that NASCAR package when they had, Justin Tuck, and they had, Michael Strahan and others that were JPP getting after the quarterback. Now they're able to kind of do that again, and that's what Antonio Pierce really wants to try to duplicate. So that was a great signing, something that most of Raider Nation was hoping was going to happen. Didn't know if it was going to get done, but you throw enough money at a guy, you can get him, and that's what they did with Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, Cardinals playing a little different sandbox than the Vegas Raiders as it relates to bringing on their defensive tackle of note. At least early in the day, they ended up signing another one. But tell me what you know about Nichols now. He comes from, I think, a Raider defense that was underrated at times last year, specifically when rushing the passer. I saw a scoop and score against Kansas City kind of going around the Twitter streets today. But give our fans kind of some insight. Is this a developmental guy? Is this a rotational piece? Or is this somebody that's really earned their opportunity to cash in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good rotational piece. I mean, he's a guy who probably was very underrated in the Raiders defense a year ago. You didn't hear any wow, like, oh my gosh, look what Bilal Nichols just did. But he did his job. Right. I mean, he plugged up the holes. He was something that everyone calls really a space eater, where he kept the linebackers clean so they're able to come do their job as well. He played a big role in that Raiders defensive line rotation. So he wasn't a guy that wowed you at all. He's not going to ever wow you. You're not going to, leave a game and be like, man, the Cardinals had a hell of a game because that Bilal Nichols just wrecked it. He's not Max Crosby, but again, he doesn't have to be. He just has to be that guy that can go in there and do what he's supposed to do, plug up that hole, get a little bit of pressure on the quarterback, but most importantly, really be that space eater, keep those linebackers clean. I think that Bilal is a good player. The Raiders had him for 2 years. They picked him up from Chicago, and I think Arizona will enjoy Bilal. They probably paid a little bit more than they wanted to, but you guys know that's what free agency is, so you don't really get upset about that.
Right. And kind of, it sounds like he's a lunch pail type guy, right?
Yes,
just puts his head down, goes to work. Does he just become kind of a casualty because of the big splash in Wilkins, and otherwise they probably would have tried to keep him?
Probably. I think they just wanted more. Antonio Pierce really was very adamant about the fact that they wanted someone who could be real dominant from the interior, like a Chris Jones type. And so we saw what happened with Chris Jones. He went back to Kansas City. So the next best guy was Christian Wilkins. And so I think that the Raiders probably turned their attention to him first, only because he's younger than Chris Jones. I had my eye on Justin Madubuike from Baltimore, but once he got hit with the franchise tag, you kind of knew he wasn't going anywhere. So just by default, he was the best player available. Not to mention the Raiders got to see him last year when they played Miami. So they kind of knew what he was already about, had 9 sacks from the interior, and is a guy that's always been really good at stuff in the run. So I think if you're the Raiders, it's a win-win situation for you.
Q, let's pivot quickly to the NFL draft, and the Raiders are picking just outside the top 10, and there's been some smoke as it relates to could they trade up with a team like, I don't know, the New England Patriots, the Arizona Cardinals at pick 4. Now, they added a quarterback in Gardner Minshew today. Do you think that takes them out of potentially moving up for a signal caller like a J.J. McCarthy, a Drake May in the top 5 of the 2024 NFL draft?
No, not at all. I think, as a matter of fact, tells you that they're going to make a move for a quarterback in the draft. Antonio Pierce has said he doesn't want a Band-Aid. Gardner Minshew's a Band-Aid. It's a 2-year, $15 million fully guaranteed. I mean, $25 million if he maxes it out, but we know the fully guaranteed is all that matters. So $7.5 million for insurance, that's fine, right? I mean, Gardner Minshew is nothing to get excited about, but I think that the Raiders need more and they want more. And Antonio Pierce has said that he doesn't want any more Band-Aids. So that's exactly who Minshew is. I think the Raiders are going to do everything they can to try to get Jaden Daniels, but we know that that's going to be a tall task. You got to get in the top 3 to get that, probably number 2. If they don't get there, then maybe they look at another guy like a McCarthy or a Penix or a Nix or whatever. But I do think that their number 1 target is going to be Jaden Daniels because of the relationship that he had with Antonio Pierce back at Arizona State. So and recruited him out of high school and has talked highly about him. So that's their guy. If they can get him, they'll get him. If they can't, they won't. They'll go in another direction. But I do think that that's who they're going to put like all the chips in the table and try to make sure they land.
There's nobody more dialed in when it comes to the silver and black than your boy Q jumping on with us, talking some Bilal Nichols, talking some Christian Wilkins, and that draft pick. Of course, what could the Raiders do? Check them out, Lockdown Raiders, of course, Rough and Rowdy. And tonight, ESPN Radio, you're back on the airwaves, correct?
Yeah, man, all day long, right? 7 to 10, or what time is 7 to 10? Yeah, 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern time. That's what it is, man. The Eastern times be messing me up. I have to try to keep my mind on the Eastern time. But yeah, I'll be on ESPN Radio tonight for game night, and we'll be talking all things NFL free agency. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it as well. We're always tuned in to your boy Q. Thanks so much, man.
I appreciate y'all. Keep doing your good job.
Awesome stuff from Q, giving us the lowdown on the newest Arizona Cardinal and what the moves today signified for the Raiders. So some interesting stuff that Gardner, some reports about Justin Fields, but no, they could still very much be in play for a trade up for a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on how today's moves likely signal, again, Arizona Cardinals having full opportunity to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., MHJ, 4th overall. Kirk Cousin going to Atlanta. Everybody talking now Minnesota coming up for a quarterback. It's a good time. It's a really good time to be an Arizona Cardinal fan. It's a better time to be with us here on PHNX Cardinals. We're going to get to your super chats in just a second, but I'm going to tell you, chat it up with our friends at BetMGM. With BetMGM, bet 5, get 150 instantly. BetMGM, you can bet, you can wager NFL draft props right around the corner. They've got their NFL offseason props locked and ready to go. Disappointing loss by the Phoenix Suns the other day, of course, against Boston, but I think they rally. I think they get the dub and the over in their next matchup. It's my BetMGM parlay of the week. And speaking of BetMGM, download the app right now on your iOS or Android device, or check them out, betmgm.com. Sign up and deposit at least $5 in your newly created account. Place a wager in the amount of at least $5, standard odds price. We've got NCAA tournament, Pac-12 tournament right around the corner, Big Ten, what have you, whatever your preference is, wherever you're located, make sure you're dabbling with our friends at BetMGM. You're going to get 150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your wager. Again, bet 5, get 150 instantly. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my guy, Damon Dog, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-UP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117. For confidential help, Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Mississippi, New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Red Bull, Didi, Lou T, Han Shot First. So many people crushing it in the exclusive member Discord, the PHNX Cardinals member Discord today. Everybody's amped up. Obviously, it was a little uneasy going early on, but people have perked up with all the signings. You want in on the member Discord? Well, you got to become a diehard. Just set up to become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. You get a free short or hat of your choosing. You can get the hat Johnny's wearing on his head right now. You get one of our great, Bird Gang t-shirts that we have in the PHNX locker. But the easiest way to do that, sign up to become a diehard today. Get that free shirt, get access to all of our diehard level content, 20% off all events and merch, and free access to the entire website. Become a diehard today. Go PHNX.com.
I'm diehard for these super chats. Let's do it. Ray kicking us off, $4.99. Nice additions today. I agree, Ray. Keep it cooking, Monty. Can't wait until the draft. Let's go. I like the positivity. Again, I think it would be a much different vibe on this podcast, this stream. Cardinals got shut out. I know, again, people want that star power. I agree. It's nice to have a guy a name recognition that you can just say, hey, he's going to come in and kick ass for us. That's not how the Cardinals are going to operate. Like I was texting somebody earlier today, and it's just like, these are the kind of moves that they're going to build their team out in free agency. Yes, they're going to be active. Yes, they could have the occasional splurge. This is a draft and develop organization now. For too long, it's been, let's extend old players. Let's get AJ Green in here on another 2-year deal. Those deals don't age well. There are a lot of deals that have been thrown around this morning, like a Gabe Davis, everything like Jacksonville, and respectfully, like Chicago signing running backs to big deals. It's like, we've seen the Cardinals do all that. Now they're just saying, no, we're going to get guys that fit what we do on modest team-friendly deals that haven't reached 30 years old yet, that are going to bridge the gap to, I don't know, our 11, 12, 13 draft picks this year that we're also going to develop and set up for success.
Let's keep it going with these super chats. Tyler H, $2. LFG Money's got that 3-year plan. Fire. Hashtag AFKime. Like that.
I love that hashtag.
From Tyler. How about Omar jumping in? Omar Medina, $1.99 super chat. On a scale from 1 to 10, how's the free agency? What's left, I believe. What do you think, Johnny? As far as, I'm guessing Osmar is just asking strictly about Cardinals free agency.
Yeah.
Who are you seeing left on the...
Well, there's rumors that the Hollywood Brown market's heating up, and there's some rumblings on the Instagram streets before the show today that the Chiefs are really interested and the Patriots are monitoring his market. I would imagine the Patriots would pivot from Calvin Ridley if they can't get him. I would expect Calvin Ridley to sign before Hollywood Brown. I think Calvin Ridley is going to get more money, so then in turn, Hollywood Brown would come right after the fact. Gabe Davis was a lot of people's 3rd or 4th receiver behind both of them. He got paid first, and he got paid a lot by Jacksonville. So again, the Jaguars, tell me if you heard this before, skewing the receiver market, so everybody else has to play catch-up. But again, putting that off to the side, all the tackles are left. Owenu for the Patriots re-ups, but I think he re-ups maybe to play guard. He might play right tackle, but in terms of like the traditional tackles, Charles Leno Jr., Tyron Smith, Trent Brown, Cameron Fleming, the offensive tackle class is still secure. Here's where you have to be concerned if you're an Arizona Cardinal fan. They wanted to come out of the first wave of free agency with a starting left guard. A lot of the guards have been gobbled up. Robert Hunt, Jonah Jackson. Now, Damian Lewis is somebody I've been told to keep an eye out for. The analytics pair well with what the Cardinals want to do. So Damian Lewis, once upon a time a Seattle Seahawk, keep an eye out for him, potentially coming to the Arizona Cardinals, not on a bloated contract, but maybe something similar to what we've seen with some of these other free agents that they signed. But Dalton Reisner still available, Graham Glass now still available. So some decent guard play if you're hoping to dabble. I would say Ossenfort's got to get that done within the next 24 to 48 hours. Like, the guard market is not one that you can wait a week and still expect to get somebody of quality. I think you need to make sure. It feels like that's the next move, if you're asking me. I think you can wait on a pass rusher. You could trade for one. You could sign one in the 2nd or 3rd tier. If you're asking me, like, if we fast forward to Friday's show, I will be disappointed if they don't have a starting left guard.
Yeah. We talk about a guy like Damian Lewis, doesn't blow you away. Like many of the deals today, you're just like, okay, I need to do some more research into him. But you'll see that it would be an upgrade over, what they did at left guard this past season. And it was a bit of a rotation. Obviously, Elijah Wilkinson went down to injury, but he was playing poorly before that. He did play well down the stretch. Tristan Colon, who they re-upped with today before the start of the tampering period, signed into a 1-year deal, basically around the vet minimum. And then you had, Dennis Daly going in there, not perform very well. So that would be a minor upgrade. Let's keep it going with these super chats. Libertarian Sasquatch jumping in with a $4.99 super chat. So thank you so much. Today's moves feel like we'll be spending some early draft capital on the offensive side of the football. Yeah, certainly does.
Yeah, I mean it's a generational tackle and wide receiver class. They're going to take a tackle and receiver early. We know what receiver they're taking, 4th overall, and then I think we would be shocked if 27 or 35 is not a tackle. Unless they sign one for agency, which is still a possibility. But like, does today's moves at defensive line give you a little bit more, I don't know, flexibility to go out and say, you know what? We love a guy at tackle. We're going to go up and get him. I think it does. I don't think now you have to say we have to take a defensive lineman. I still would if Darius Robinson or Jerzon Johnny Newton is available at pick 35. But I'm going to tell you right now, if they exit free agency without a left tackle, I could see them packaging 27 and 35 together. It wouldn't be my preference. It wouldn't be my choice, But like you come out of the first round with, I don't know, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Alu Fashanu, both drafted within the top 15 to 18 picks. I mean, you're set. You're fucking set if you're the Arizona Cardinals and Monty Austin Ford.
And you could also package, some of your one of your three third rounders with other capital and get back up and still have 6 top 100 picks. Or, instead of 6 top 100 picks, you've got 5, but you've got 2 surefire legit starters on offense. Actually, they bolster your offense. Let's just say that. Jessica Hawk, Jess jumping in with a $4.99 super chat. You guys think this means they're going to get rid of all the old guys? Y'all are doing amazing. Thank you so much, Jess. As far as old guys, as far as on the roster, like what are we talking about here? As far as who remains on the roster? Or?
I think she means like the James Connors of the world. Yeah. I do think, like, Jessica, if you're asking us, we've been pretty consistent. Like, I think this is James's last year with the team. I think this is Budda Baker's last year with the team. We expect DJ Humphries to be released soon. But I think the good news for those guys is they're going to get to play out their contracts and then hit free agency and try to make more money from somebody else. But Bo, that's how I read that comment.
Yeah. Let's keep moving on here. Great stuff from Jess and the rest of the super chats. But Patrick keeps it going, the $5 super chat. Monty does his homework, found best bang for your buck free agent and draft cheap, good rookies. Feels like Moneyball moves. Every time Moneyball's on TV, I tune in. It was on last night. Tune in for a couple minutes. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you have people that are prepared and put in the work behind the scenes, they do their self-scouting, they don't rely on groupthink around the league, and they see with their own eyes, hey, can this guy compete? Can this guy fit the scheme for Jonathan Gannon? Sure, he worked here, but is he going to work there? Absolutely. I think Patrick T, that it's a great point. And Monty is not going to be kind of, when we were talking last night, when Christian Wilkins was inevitably going to go off the board, Monty Austin Fort wasn't just going to be like, oh shit, that was my only move. That was the only move I had. No, he probably immediately pivoted to, if you're not getting one guy that's going to bolster your defensive line and change the complexion of that, you got to go to a rotation. That's what, not every team's going to have an Aaron Donald. Not every team's going to have a Chris Jones. So and now Christian Wilkins, everybody covets that. But at the end of the day, the easiest solution is find 5-6 guys that you can run a rotation that are still going to be and make impacts on a down-to-down basis.
They're going to find their star defensive tackle. It's going to be through the NFL draft at some point. Milwaukee Braves, $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Milwaukee Braves, for the support on that level. Thoughts on Brian Burns going to the Giants? It hurts my heart because I think this is a deal Cardinals could have done, but we talked about it last week. The Cardinals, fortunately and unfortunately, their second round pick was just too damn high to trade for Brian Burns. Like, we talked about it at the time, Bo. If they had like picked 49, 50, 51, 52, it's like that's the sweet spot where you're like, yeah, I'll give that for Brian Burns. But the Giants have a higher pick than that, and the Cardinals weren't going to give up pick 35. So I think that's a good trade for the Giants. I think the Giants are a laughingstock franchise, and I don't take them seriously, but I think that move is good, that singular move. And the Carolina Panthers are going to be disbanded, but everybody told you that the Carolina Panthers are desperate to make Bryce Young work. And so as a result, what they do, they overpaid Robert Hunt. They gave a guard $100 million, and they traded away their best defensive player so they can take a receiver, honestly, with that Brian Burns pick. So in a different reality, the Cardinals can make that move. I think the Cardinals can make a similar move like next offseason, but their pick was too high in the second round. You have to use that on a drafted player.
It's unbelievable. You can, like my co-host is in rare air, his ability to do this, compliment a team and then immediately flame them afterwards by saying, I like what they did, but they're a terrible franchise.
They are. The Giants are terrible.
They did have the luxury of having 2 second-round picks. So when they see what they paid for him, a second and fifth, and then the huge contract that he signs, 5 years, 150 with close to 90, was it $87.5 million guaranteed? Yeah, I mean, you got Brian Burns and then Kayvon Thibodeau. You've got 2 of the best young pass rushers in the league. That's solid. I mean, they're kind of going back to, where they had their success back in the Manning days. All right, let's keep it going with the super chats. Over 800 people, 812 people watching this. Make sure to hit like on this video. We're still going to get into all the free agent moves, tampering moves.
Plenty of show today. Go.
Let's hit this Chase super chat here. Producer Damon, can we put that on the screen? Chase, $5 super chat. Continue to see Monty's mindset on building the team. We're in good hands. All signings played every game the last 2 years. Solid contributors.
It just feels different, doesn't it? Like you knew when they were to sign like a Ben Neiman, it's like, oh, Ben Neiman's going to play. even if he's not the best player. It's like
Right.
all 4 of these guys are going to play if they earn it, right? If they don't earn it, like a Zach Pascal, they'll find a different role, right? And not to dog on Zach Pascal, Michael Wilson had a great training camp, right? And he earned that starting spot. Like if they draft a defensive tackle or a linebacker, God forbid, or a cornerback, and they beat out Sean Murphy-Bunting, guess what? These guys are still going to play a lot, but it's not going to be based off of reputation. And that tells you everything about Jonathan Gannon, Amani Ossenford, Nick Rollis, and Drew Petzing. They can teach young and old, right? Whereas Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury, Vance Joseph, that brain trust, if you will, could not educate and develop young players. So what did they have to do? They had to go out and buy aging veterans whose bodies were breaking down, pay them to come to Arizona and say, we can't coach and develop. Can you just come here and do your thing? Can you do your shtick, Rodney Hudson? And for a little while, it's like a magic trick. It fooled some people.
Right.
And then as you got in November, December, January, the team fell apart. The Cardinals played their best football, roster depth be damned, at the end of the season last year. So now they're fortifying the middle of the roster to say, okay, we think we can get to 8, 9, 10, 11 wins next year, potentially, if we hit on our draft class, but we can't be empty in the middle of our roster.
Yeah. I mean, I always think back to when Keim went out and he had to, really address the offensive line, and he goes against Justin Pugh and he goes against Andre Smith.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, who are the biggest names here? But yeah, both of them have red flags as far as injury, and both those guys, go down to injury inevitably, and they're just left, having a patchwork offensive line together. And guess what? It doesn't work. And it was one of the poorest, put together, constructed rosters that you could think of in that decade. Let's continue with the super chats here, Johnny.
We're busting a move here. $4.99.
You almost said it. We got 800 people in here. We got to watch yourself, Johnny. This is a family program.
Our guy Merv.
What's he got to say?
Ill, but Johnny and Bo a beer. I'll buy Johnny and Bo a beer if we sign a star edge this week, or we trade for Sweat or Hassan. But Monty is cooking with these defensive guys. I reached out to somebody this morning and I asked point blank, would Ossenford do a deal with Howie Roseman after everything that went down? Because I do think you could get either Hassan or Sweat for a relatively modest price. I think you could probably flip your fourth for at least one of them. Mm-hmm. And I got a resounding that they don't want to F with them currently. Now that could change. Maybe the Cardinals get desperate. Maybe they mend bridges, but I still think it would be a very difficult decision based on what happened last year. It was only a year ago. It feels longer than that the Eagles cried to the NFL and made the Cardinals switch third rounders. I don't think they want to help Howie Roseman at all.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, I did like the Eagles signing of Bryce Huff. I thought that was a pretty good move from
But doesn't that show you that they're going to move off of one of, if not both, of their edge rushers?
The 90s Poppy jumping in with a $4.99 super chat saying all the cap space we had, and so far these signings are a huge letdown. I'm hoping we can trade and sign a big name player. What do you guys think?
I mean, like I understand that 100%. Like the signings this morning, I think the signings of the afternoon are more significant than the signings this morning. I think Justin Jones is your best defensive lineman you've had. I mean, certainly since Zach Allen, J.J. Watt. Justin Jones has a chance to be a really good player for Jonathan Gannon. And if Sean Murphy-Bunting is what they hope, they gave Sean Murphy-Bunting a 3-year contract. I think he's going to be pretty good for them. The rest of, like, if Mack Wilson Sr. is a developmental rotational guy, and same thing with our guy, I keep wanting to call him Bilal Powell, but Bilal Nichols. They used to have a running back named Bilal Powell. If they're just rotational guys, I get that. But again, the Cardinals have how many picks? 11, 12, 13 picks. Mm-hmm. They want to be built through the draft. And there's a really good super chat from Albert, $2. This is really well put. You want to be the team where a guy makes their name. Mm-hmm. You want to be the organization that develops guys and then pays them and rewards them and only goes to free agency when you have to. Like what we saw today, Bo, I really do think is an anomaly for what Ossenford wants. I don't think he wants to hand out 4 defensive starting contracts the first day of free agency, but you had to. Keim took an axe to this franchise. He basically tore it down where you had no resources, no capital, no money. That this is our biggest argument, Bo, for the last 6 weeks. You had to spend. They had to add pieces, and that's what they did. And it's not going to hamper anything they do.
What was the stat you had as far as the roster next season? How many players they had control of?
So they have 18 players on the roster under contract before today in 2025. So think about that. If they did nothing and we sat here It's 18 players. Now, they would add a rookie draft class to that. But the most damning part of that is, of those 18, only 3 were signed to non-rookie deals. And one of them, DJ Humphries, is going to be cut.
Yeah.
So these 4 players that they added today to multi-year deals, they joined Jalen Thompson and Kyler Murray as the only guys that are going to be operating on this roster as of now that are not going to be on rookie deals. That's incredible.
Yep. You've got that. And then you got the incoming rookie class, and it gets you up close to, 30 players, right?
Yeah.
And then you start really looking and seeing how that drafts and develop, and guys start emerging, right? And you start to really build your foundation. Your foundation gets, bigger and more sustainable. And you'll start to see, stars emerge, and, even outside of the premium picks, because of what Monty Ossenfort's been able to already do through one draft. We do have breaking news, Johnny. This is via ESPN, and Jeremy Fowler saying that the Patriots plan to sign quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is set to return to the New England Patriots.
Yes, he is. We felt like that was inevitable. We talked to Benjamin Albright, the NFL Combine. The dominoes are in place, folks. It feels like the Cardinals are being gifted from the football gods. One, Marvin Harrison Jr., 4th overall. The New England Patriots, they're either going to roll with Jacoby Brissett as a bridge sacrificial lamb of sorts for 2024, or they're going to draft a quarterback and sit Drake May or Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy behind Jacoby Brissett. But all this talk about they're going to get Russ, they're going to get Justin Fields, they're going to sign Marvin Harrison Jr., they're going to draft him, and they're going to be cooking. No, the roster is awful. It's terrible. No one is talking about, nobody from New England, nobody from Boston is talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the Patriots. It's over. It's dead. So they're either going to trade back or they're taking a quarterback. Quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Fucking book it. The Cardinals are getting Marvin Harrison Jr. It's a great day.
1 year, $8 million, according to Ian Rappaport. You can officially, I think, call it right here. What's the official time of death of Marvin Harrison Jr. to the New England Patriots?
5:24 Arizona time, March 11th. It's a Monday, folks. Print the jerseys. Dick's Sporting Goods here in the Valley. Shields, get it going. Shields should have a babe with the carousel. Should just be tossing Marvin Harrison Jr. jerseys off of that. Somebody contact BJ Ojolari. Make sure he's okay with this and see if can we get BJ Ojolari a single digit, because we want to give number 18 to our boy out of Columbus. But congratulations, everybody. It's happening.
Even the biggest Patriots homers out there, Marvin Harrison Jr. truthers, like they're stopping the higher. They're
Justin Fields truthers.
They're tuckered out. They've been doing it already for 2 months. They've been trying to keep this thing alive. It's no longer like 1 year. Yeah. Hey, we just got we just added a to our condominium here that is sinking into the ground. We just got a car with a payment of $1,000 that we're gonna give it. Jacoby Brissett, 1 year, $8 million, and you're gonna gift him Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, it ain't happen.
Sweet team building, guys. They know, like, kudos to Elliot Wolf and company, son of Rom Wolf. They're doing it right. They're stripping it down. It's very Joshua Dobbs-esque. By the way, this podcast told you before anybody else, the Cardinals weren't signing Gardner Minshew or Jacoby Brissett. They were going cheap with their backup. Guess who didn't sign a quarterback today? The Cardinals. They're going Clayton Tune. They're not going big ticket backup. And you could think what you want about that. I think I would like for them to get some experience behind K1 because Kyler's missed some time. But Jacoby Brissett is starting for the Patriots week 1. He is starting for them unless he gets beat out by a rookie in training camp. So that's very significant. It's very significant because now the Cardinals can focus on, if everything checks out with the medicals with Marvin and his top 30 visit, and everybody is, hugging and smooching, for lack of a better term, before the draft, focus on now. I love this. Super chat here, $4.99. What are you doing now? Packaging picks from 27 to go up and get a tackle or a corner or an edge rusher. I think it's a tackle now. Good position to be in with pick 35. Marvin at 4, lock it in. As our guy Benjamin Albright's been saying since like early January. It's done. It's over. Lock it in. Nobody's even close to him. 27 now becomes a prime spot. The icon saying, let's go up. I agree. Let's go up and let's get a top 3 tackle in this class, top 4 tackle.
Which is, depending on how you look at the rankings, you got Joe Alt, you got Fuaga. Did you say DJ had Fuaga as his 1? And then you got Joe Alt, who's toolsy, right? And size, you like that. You like his age. You like what he's got going on between his ears. You got Fashanu, who's fallen out of favor a little bit because of his measurements, but still long enough as far as arm size, arm length. And then you got guys like J.C. Latham. You got Tyler Guyton, who didn't have the greatest combine, but I think you like his size and athleticism. Lots of options there. It's just going to come down to scouting and how Monty Osford sees kind of the draft dominoes falling. Can he do the same thing instead of at 12 getting up to 6 like he did in the draft last year? Can he get from 27 in a striking distance from one of these tackles? It's a great thing to start to look at as teams are building and utilizing free agency like the Cardinals are, setting themselves up to continue to draft and develop, but also raise the floor as far as the talent goes. The Icon also $4.99 super sticker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, the Icon. More breaking news here. The Seahawks, unfortunately, and this kind of reading between the tea leaves, what the Cardinals did, you knew this wasn't going to be in play. Seahawks are re-signing defensive tackle Leonard Williams per Bleacher Report. This big point of emphasis for them. They've been relatively quiet today. Interested to see the numbers on Leonard Williams.
I've got some reported numbers here from Tom Pelissaro saying it's a 3-year deal worth $64.5 million.
It's big.
So he's right around $22 million per season.
Yeah, it's good money for him.
His former 5th overall pick. I mean, people like the skill set. The Seahawks, I don't think it falls on the shoulders of Leonard Williams last year. Their defensive decline towards the end of the season. But I think he's a player you want to retain, but you got to pay the price, and they did.
Well, and you see now, like the Rams signing multiple guards, the Niners going out and getting an edge rusher / defensive lineman, Leonard Floyd. The Seahawks now re-upping their D tackle. The Cardinals signing 2 D tackles today. Like the line of scrimmage play in the NFC West, like the NFC South, you can dick around and Kirk Cousins can go from one team to another. And it's like, oh, they're the new favorite. The NFC West, it's like, how many Hall of Fame coaches are there? And you can't screw around the line of scrimmage. That's why, as much as I like these defensive linemen the Cardinals are adding, you need to draft one. You need to draft somebody that you hope can be the guy for you that you can extend, because you don't want to be in this position again. Look at what these guys are making. Put yourself in a position to extend them, a la the Ravens with Justin Matabuke. Be smart. I still think it'd be smart to draft a top 50 defensive lineman. C. Manich, $1.99 super chat. Cards aside, what do you make of this running back market? I think it's gross, and I think it makes me thankful for James Conner. And a lot of people, including myself, are like, well, that's an easy pivot before the season. You part ways with James. You ask him to take a pay cut. What's he making? $8 million? Give me that all day, every day. Overpaying like a DeAndre Swift, big time money. Pour one out for our friends at CHGO that were kind of maybe sort of talking themselves into that move this morning. I like Saquon Barkley. I also drafted him in our fantasy football league, and it almost sent me to Waffle House because he never plays. So I think Cheech Manich, that James Conner to me is a tremendous value for at least another year. And I like Michael Carter Jr.
I mean, they go from Swift in Philly to Barkley. It's like, yeah, your big downfall was your run game, wasn't it? No, you got issues all over the field, especially on the defensive side of the football. And you're going with Saquon Barkley and you're giving him close to $50 million. It's insane. It's ludicrous. It did make for good sports talk radio in New York, where they said that Saquon Barkley's dead to them. You're dead to me, Saquon. You're dead. All right, Austin, $4.99 super chat. Thankfully, it seems like the plan isn't to max out Bidwell's free agent credit card value, is paying off more of Kyler's contract to lower the future cap strain. No, I mean, I think that this has been the plan for Monty Osford since he took the job back in last January. Like he wants to be a draft and develop team. He doesn't want to hamper the team down the road with big guaranteed dollars, investing in the big names on free agency. I don't think Bidwell, as he's perceived as cheap. If you look at where he's spent as far as salary cap and getting close to that number, he's traditionally done that. It's where he's cut costs as far as facility and other things that you wish he wouldn't. That's where he's going to have to start ponying up. As far as paying in players, he seems to have always kind of fit the bill. So I think that, they need to get to a certain amount, and they also understand, and they went to the coaching staff and they asked for their people, that the free agents that the coaches for JG covet. And they looked at him and they paired, what Monty and his scouting staff and his front office, what they saw as far as those players. And I think they made just some pretty educated decisions on players that fit in what they wanted to pay on the free agent market. Kenny Wilson, $5 super chat. You wanted to add that, Johnny?
Yeah, would you guys? No, you're good. Would you guys trade back? No, and go with Joe Alt at 4? No, and trade up at 27 and pick Brian Thomas Jr. to get more picks. I think any scenario in which you're putting your wide receiver 1 of the future in jeopardy of saying, well, we hope somebody like Brian Thomas Jr. is available, I would not do that. I think there's a better chance you can get one of the fringe first-round tackles to develop if you wanted to eventually kick Paris over to left, although right now we're told that's not the plan. The best player in the draft plays receiver, and you have a huge need at receiver, you take that player. If Joe Alt was Joe Thomas and it was 1A and 1B, then take the lineman. I'm 100% on board with that. Goal line of scrimmage. It's not close, though. Anybody will tell. Joe Alt's not even the consensus number 1 offensive tackle to a lot of people. I know there are people that put Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that's stupid, but go with he's the safest pick. He's going to produce 11, 12, 1,300 yard seasons consistently, double-digit touchdowns, figure out left tackle. If this tackle class is so great, get one at 27, trade up for one. Don't force the pick early, because right now, who's trading for the 4th overall pick? Like, everybody, that's in vogue to say that, oh, there's going to be 4 quarterbacks that go 1, 2, 3, 4. I still think Drake May goes 3rd, and I still think J.J. McCarthy probably goes at the latter half of the top 10 or just outside the top 10. Don't force a pick with somebody that wants to come up and give you a ham sandwich and pass on a generational receiver as a result. That's overthinking the room, and I don't think Austin Ford is dumb enough to do that.
There are bad, desperate organizations. There are. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And I think that's especially at the point where that 1, 2, 3, 4 came out, and there were people even around the league, and I don't doubt it, are telling people like Diana Rossini that they think, oh no, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 with JJ McCarthy being, in the mix, whether he's 3rd or 4th quarterback off the board. But then they're going to realize, and they're going to see, what the Cardinals are going to do likely if they stick and pick at 4, what Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz of the Chargers, what they would do at 5. Like, do they have open phone lines, and would they talk to you about trading back? But if you're one of the quarterback hungry teams, and Atlanta's not that anymore, so then you look to the Vikings and you look to the Raiders. We just talked to Q about that. How much you would have to get up to go from 11-13 to 3-4.
It's too much.
And that's it's probably going to be too much to where, I think that they would probably just roll the dice, and maybe they pull off a deal with Atlanta, get to 8 and take a JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the Chargers are actively telling teams they want to trade down. So Cardinals this is a gift. This is a gift from the football gods. They're not going to screw this up. You can't, you just sit there and you put the ticket in, and then you work the rest of the draft, and you scout everybody else, and you maneuver, and you go up and you go down. Do whatever the hell you want. You stick and pick at pick 4, because Matt Prater, he's gifted this to you with 2 field goal misses in the final 2 minutes of that finale. Merv again, $4.99. Everyone asking what we do if we didn't get Marv at 4. I guess we'll never know. I think that's a great way to put it. It's a fun what if scenario, Merv. Mm-hmm. But it's not a reality I want any part of. And thankfully, I don't think that's going to happen. But pending, a bong gas mask video, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the 4th overall pick. And
I'm even taking him if he's got a bong gas mask.
I'm fine with that too. 100%.
I'm like Party. That's right. If you're a 6'4" playmaker, I know it's a little iffy if you're a tackle like Laramie Tunsil and you just kind of go down the board. But
great.
Yeah, I mean, it's colorful, right? Deuce jumping in. Tune. He was robbed by Dobbs, and now he has a sea of haters. Set them straight, Jobo. Let the world know that they need to join the Tune Squad. Love it. Thanks for the $5 super chat, Deuce. And Kyle jumping in with a $6.99 super chat. Addressed some needs today, but didn't overpay. Built the D-line rotation. Now we get a stud from Ohio State of 4 and continue to build through the draft. Love it, Kyle. Thank you for the super chat.
I still think, for those curious, they sign another corner to be able to come in and at least provide some depth. I don't know if the Sean Murphy-Bunting move means they're out on Kenny Moore. They were very much in over the weekend. There was also some faux reports that from some people in Indianapolis that deal with Kenny Moore, the cornerback who had his best year with Jonathan Gannon and then subsequently just had a really nice contract year again in Indianapolis. There was reports that was done over the weekend. It was not. He's a free agent. And a lot of people speculated from like legitimate, reputable sources like the Indianapolis Star, if Kenny Moore got to free agency, it would be infinitely harder to keep him. And I do think the Cardinals will continue to check on his market. But are they going to be in a position with, is he a traditional slot corner? Is Garrett Williams, can he kick outside? Murphy's, I think they're going to play him outside. I would still check on him because I think right now, if you go into camp with Kenny Moore, Sean Murphy-Bunting, and somebody like Garrett Williams, and then the depth you had in Starling Thomas and Keitrell Clark, you probably just say we're good at corner for at least a year. I know there's no ace in the hole there, but there's a lot of 2s and 3s, and then you could focus on the line of scrimmage, especially defensively.
Well, I think Keitrell and Starling Thomas showed you that they'll compete, right? And I think you bring in somebody like we talked about with the backup quarterback position. You're not just going to go and say, "Hey, it's your job. Go out there, continue to do what you do." No, they're gonna get competition. They want competition at every single position across the board, and I don't think that they want to go into training camp where I know Starling Thomas and Keitrell will compete out, but I think they want to at least have some sort of safety net that if those guys don't take the step forward that they anticipated, and they're anticipating a step forward across the board on the roster. But I do think that that's possible. Should we block this guy Shane Diefenbach out of the chat saying Leonard Williams back in Seattle?
He's gross. He used to live on a bus and now he's back and he thinks he runs the show. He does not. It's a nice signing for Seattle. It's going to look great with Michael Penix Jr. throwing more picks than touchdowns as a rookie. You know what else looks good? Our friends at Circle K at the Inner Circle, baby. I'm a member. Bo's a member. Damon Dog, he's a member. Shane Diefenbach, probably not a member because he's not elite. But Michael Wilson, Arizona Cardinal wide receiver, he's a member of the Inner Circle. Join today for free at America's Thirst Stop. It's a free new membership program. It's going to hook you up, save 25 cents per gallon on your first count of 5 fill-ups. Save 3 cents per gallon every single day. Every 6 free selection on things like pizza, coffee, ice cold fountain drinks, and more. Perfect way to cap off a robust free agency day is with a little pizza, a little ice cold fountain drink from our friends at Circle K. You can join, by the way, the Inner Circle for free right now by downloading the Circle K app. Check them out. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Visit CircleK.com/store-locator, Bo, to find a Circle K nearest to you.
That's right. While you're in there, why don't you take advantage of Arizona Lottery's latest promotion, their ticket promotion? How about the Arizona Lottery tickets, Arizona Adventure, where they've got 3 different iconic landscapes where it's just your traditional scratcher, Picacho Peak, Monument Valley, Camelback Mountain, where you can win prizes up to $50,000. Or you can go into these geolocated spots, ventures around the great state of Arizona, 10 destinations from Flagstaff to Yuma, my beloved Yuma. Visit azadventure.com for details and directions. You check in at a destination with the coordinates on the website, and you have a chance to win $1 million in cash or Arizona travel prizes. Visit azadventure.com for more info on how you can take the adventure for a chance to win $1 million cash in Arizona travel prizes.
Diego asking me, $2 super chat. John, do the Cardinals front office watch the show? They damn well better. No, we've gotten some internal support from the Cardinals, and it's nice to see and hear. But really, what we care about is the 866 of you watching right now. Right. That's what we care about. Like this video, by the way. Sean Murphy-Bunting was a quintessential top 10 cornerback available on the market. He was a top 30 free agent. So on the surface, that is the Cardinals' most impactful. But I think Justin Jones is going to be the better player immediately. So there's instantly 2 players that are unequivocally better than what you had last year. And then you add some developmental rotational pieces and our guy Bilal and, of course, Mack Wilson Sr. The Cardinals are a better team today as free agency continues to roll on after day 1. But, Bo, if I put you under the microscope here, what do you think the next move should be? And what's a player that you feel like would help the Cardinals?
Man, that's a great question. I mean, I think we talked about it, right? It's the guard position.
Yeah.
I think that's the position that we saw, at least in free agency. There was depth, and then quickly that depth went away. Ezra Cleveland signed a deal to stay in Jacksonville. You had the 3 big deals that went down with Dotson and Robert Hunt, and some other players out there that play the guard position. So maybe if you got priced out on that and it's not a position that you can really strike on, I think the edge probably comes next when you've got some really rock solid athletes that can come off the edge and could, with these additions on the defensive front, I think open up some pass rush lanes. Like, will they look into guys, who remain available? I don't know. It's just Chase Young too big of a name. I mean, I don't know what happened to his market, but once he made his way out of DC into San Francisco, like he turned back into that player that got selected second overall in 2020.
I think but I think you monitor that kind of market. I don't listen, they're not opposed to signing anybody, but here's something we didn't point out that I want to make sure we touch on. Every guy they signed today, high character guy. Justin Jones was the Walter Payton Man of the Year rep for the Bears this past year. Every one of these guys has immense football credibility, high football acumen. So again, if they were to sign Chase Young, it would have to be, okay, check your ego at the door, so to speak. But I think that there's a better chance that they sign like a Josh Uche from New England as a developmental player after a down year, and then hopefully he bounces back. And again, if you get 7, 8, 9 sacks out of that, that's a win. A lot of people wanting to ask about Hollywood Brown. Doc's Cards asking, would Hollywood on a 2-year, $32 million deal be too much? Absolutely. I have it sourced pretty well that if they offered him a deal, I don't know if the Cardinals have an offer for Hollywood Brown. It's basically a 1-year deal for very little money. And I hope for Hollywood Brown's sake that he's able to go out and get more than that. And I think once Calvin Ridley, certainly Gabe Davis sets the market, Hollywood's going to get a multi-year offer from somebody. It's not going to be the Cardinals from what I've been told. So it's tough because I don't think Hollywood's a fit here, but I want him to do well in the market. I think he's earned it. He was a great teammate. He's still very talented. The Cardinals just have a very clear idea of what they want to do offensively at that position, Bo. You got to be big. You got to be physical. You have to stay healthy. I mean, look at all the guys that they signed today. One common denominator on top of a couple others, they all play every game. They're available. Mm-hmm. Like, say what Yeldon Froholt may never make a Pro Bowl. He was available every game last year. Hollywood Brown hasn't been healthy in 3 years. That's a problem.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, the two guys that they brought in on the defensive front, as he said, like, I mean, the kid from Vegas, he hasn't missed a game in 4 years. And then the guy from Chicago hasn't missed a game in 2 years. And they've been consistently available each and every week in and week out for the respective franchises in the Bears and the Raiders. And Bunting also has been pretty solid. I know he played in 14 games last year. Yeah. And he played in a scheme that didn't necessarily fit his skill set. And I think once you get him to the desert, you'll see him, like he did in Tampa Bay, get back on track. And then Wilson, like, he's just a guy that's toolsy and is a guy that's versatile and plays with violence. That it's a word they like to use as far as their players go, and can drop in coverage, can get after the quarterback, and do the things that Gannon and Rollis want from the defensive side of the football. And just taking stock of who they've re-signed. Like, they brought back Chris Barnes, who announced on Instagram. I think you tweeted this out, Johnny. Chris Barnes is coming back to the desert. They re-signed their punter in Blake Gillikin. He's back on the roster.
2-year deal.
Tristan Colon. He's a guy that they brought back for depth at guard. Maybe they kind of foresaw that this guard free agent class was just going to go crazy. Yeah. And then, Greg Dortch confirming today, the reports from Over the Cap that he's coming back to the desert on his exclusive rights free agent tender. So you're keeping good football players in-house and you're bringing in depth otherwise. And then you add double-digit draft picks on top of that after finding 4 starters in the draft last year.
What do you think the chances are, Bo, that they bring back Jonathan Ledbetter on his exclusive rights tag?
Yeah. I think they're good. I mean, Austin Fort, when I asked him about that at the Combine 2 weeks ago, he said, they're just trying to maneuver the cap on that. But it just seems like it's a no-brainer when he's a guy that's going to be making just over $1 million. But I don't know. It's gonna be fascinating because, they brought back last week LJ Collier, and you've got Dante Stills, and then
the two guys they signed today.
Yeah, Roy Lopez, the 2 guys you signed today. So it's starting to become kind of a crowded place. And then you got to figure out, okay, do we like Carlos Watkins, Jonathan Ledbetter, or who's the third guy in that mix?
Roy Lopez. I think unequivocally you got the 2 guys that you signed today. Dante Stills, who's a darling of this coaching staff. I think Ledbetter's earned it if he's healthy. And then I think I still think you draft at least 1, if not 2. If you keep all your picks, they have seen Fotu's a free agent. Yeah. I think this is proven to you, and they knew this already. They're smart. You have to draft these guys. Try to hit on a lottery ticket, because if not, then you're overpaying for people. And I don't think they overpaid today necessarily, but like Leonard Williams getting $65 million. $20+ million per year. They don't want to pay that unless
Right.
it's to their own guy. So they would be, it's still, to me, the hierarchy goes, get Marvin, get a tackle, get a defensive lineman. And then everything else takes care of itself from there.
Right.
I don't love this corner class. I think that's why they would be wise to sign another veteran, because you've got young players that you like. Jonathan Gannon can develop corners and safeties. You cannot replicate big men that can move a certain way. You just can't. We saw it last year. The Cardinal locker room, they didn't have enough big players that were put together. They added 2 today. They're 6'3", 6'4". They're going to look infinitely better than 99% of what they had. Keep doing that. Double and triple down on that, and then supplement it with guys that you can find elsewhere. But I think the physicality on this team was already at a nice level last year when you compare it to the talent that they had and that they didn't have. I think the physicality is going to go up another level next year. I think the offensive line play is going to have a higher ceiling, and certainly the front seven cannot be any worse.
Did you answer your own question as far as where you think they could pivot next positionally?
No, I still think that they would be wise to, and I don't have the source or anything. I think Hollywood's going to get signed to another team in the next couple of days. The left guard position has to be a priority. I don't think Tristan Cologne's a serious contender for that. I know some people kind of locally said that they're going to bring back Wilkinson at left guard, Elijah Wilkinson. Even if you did that, you cannot bring him in to start, and you certainly cannot draft a rookie to play next to another rookie at left tackle. So if the plan is you're going to have a left tackle, whether it's Alu Fashion, Tyler Guyton, Kingsley out of BYU, whomever, you need a veteran that has played. That's why I think a Damian Lewis makes a lot of sense. Again, go look at Damian Lewis's resume. Starts every game for a Seahawk team that has put up some points with Geno Smith, can certainly run the football. That's very on brand with what they want to do. It just shows you, like, we can tout these names. Who's playing 16, 17 games a year? Because at the end of the day, like the Cardinals offensive line on the surface, a lot of people kind of poo-pooed last year, is the best unit on the team. Because outside of what happened at left guard and until DJ Humphries went down, everybody was healthy. It was the same 5 guys every single week, and they're rushing for 200, 250 yards. And Kyler Murray looks comfortable in the pocket. They have emphasized to me privately, somebody close to the situation, the left side of the offensive line needs help. It needs fixing. Yeah. So they have to sign a left guard. They just have to.
Yeah, and it's getting down there as far as the availability or who's available out there. But because the tackle position, it doesn't feel like. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get an upgrade, obviously, over Kelvin Beachum, but are you going to find somebody that's going to be – you don't want left tackle serviceable. I think that's what Beach is, and that's where you start to kind of look at and read the tea leaves as far as the draft, where that it's just going to become a necessity. And I don't know if teams are going to pick up on that and try to get in before the Cardinals pick at 27 and kind of bully them around, but you want to have some sort of solution in-house before you start getting on the clock on April 25th.
This is an unfortunate scenario for him, but let me pose this to you. Do you think there could be a situation in which they cut Kelvin Beachum and they sign somebody else in free agency to come in and be the placeholder at left tackle until the draft pick is ready?
I don't think he's making enough money. And that's one of the points I was going to make on the defensive line. Like, even if you re-sign one of these guys and you sign them on a 1-year deal, it's not a lock that they make the roster
right
at the end of training camp and preseason. Like, you're not parting ways. You're not going to put yourself in cap hell if you need to move on from one of these guys because you do hit in the draft and find somebody rock solid.
Let's get to some of these super chats here. You guys are crushing it. Dude saying the only divas left on the cars is its fans. What are you talking about? Maybe me. Maybe you're talking about me, big fanboy, but thank you, dudes. $2 nonetheless. Topic 64, $1.99. Uche still has no team. Wish we could grab him. I think that's very much like a possibility. I think that fits very like signing Patriots, Browns players, Vikings players, Colts players. They're going with guys, Bears players where they have relationships. Austin Ford was there once upon a time when they drafted him. They have coaches that were on the staff. So I think that's very realistic. This is a player that had double-digit sacks 2 years ago. This past year was hampered by injury. You say, okay, come in and compete with Zaven Collins and whomever plays better and has better sack, pass rush rate, you're playing, and the other guy isn't.
Monty's clearly he pays attention to what's going on in Foxborough and did his homework on Mack Wilson, and Let's see, 90s Poppy jumping in. I'll get back. I'll get over the weak signings if we draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, all of us, I think, will agree with that. It makes maybe some under the radar signings a little bit easier to take. Picking spreads, jumping in, going picking spreads now. Putting his his name, Donnie? What's up, Donnie? I've always known him as picking spreads.
We have like 45 Donnies. Okay. They watch our show.
Yeah, we're big on Donnie here. You think AZ could trade for a star or good edge cornerback? Good edge or cornerback? I mean, they still have a ton of draft capital that I think once things settle down and the dust settles on the free agent class, that you'll start to see some of these trade markets materialize. Did you see that from T. Higgins this morning? Obviously, he's franchise tagged by the Bengals.
Yeah.
He's trying to force his way out of Cincinnati. Obviously that's not part of Donnie's question, but that he's got a trade market. I think that Brian Burns started maybe the edge conversation, setting the market there on what some of these guys could sign for. So I think that, they were going to be in play for a cornerback trade potentially, but now, Murphy-Bunting can slow that down, and you don't have to have a sense of urgency for that, but maybe the edge market.
Would you, and I'm not saying this is at all on the table because of Howie Roseman, would you trade pick 105 for Josh Sweat from Philadelphia?
What round pick?
It's a 4th round pick, but it's like one of the first picks of the 4th round.
Probably not.
You wouldn't do that? Wow. Best year with John Gannon 2 years ago. Double-digit sacks. We gotta get some help on the edge. Johnny. I know. It's a tough one. I'll tell you what's not tough is dabbling with our friends at Game Time. I'm going to tell you right now, best ticketing app, hands down, I've ever had. I've done them all. I've tried them all. I've seen them all. And let me tell you, not only are we going to help you with Game Time, we're going to help you save money with Game Time. $20 off your first purchase with, you guessed it, the bonus code PHNX. Again, we've got Suns, I hope, playoff games en route, but certainly we've got regular season games playoffs. They're losing right now, but if you go on Game Time, maybe you can turn their season around by cheering them on their home stadium. But also college basketball, spring training, concerts galore, right? You can do like stand-up comedy, whatever you want. It goes beyond sports, and a lot of this stuff, your $20 off may pay for your entire ticket. And on top of that, they've got parking passes, they've got VIP access, they've got flash deals. Whatever you want to do with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Bonus code PHNX, $20 off your first purchase. It's the premier last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed ticketing app. Do it today. Create an account. Tell them PHNX Cardinals sent you. Download Game Time today.
Yeah, speaking of tickets, you're going to want to get in on our draft party. Want to secure your tickets today. We're going to be hanging out at Gila River Resort and Casino out there, Wild Horse Pass, April 25th, the first round of the draft. It's not that far away, and I think of just about 45 days, maybe some change there. April 25th at 4 p.m., Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You got to be 21 years old or get in there. But, of course, you want to get your tickets now. You're not going to find them at any cheaper rate. I mean, if you're excited about the Cardinals now, wait till draft day. You're going to be absolutely amped about what this team is doing with all that draft capital, including the 2 first-round picks that they have, starting with the 4th overall selection. So get in. You can go phnx.com, check out the events page, and you can find the link there, or you could just check out PHNX_Cardinals. We got a link there on our Twitter.
Again, like this video, subscribe to PHNX Sports. Our guy picking spreads, aka Donnie, now $1.99 super chat. Damian Lewis is who I want. Such a great scheme fit. I just like he plays every game, and I like he's been a part of a team with a winning record, with a plus offense that can run the football. And I would imagine that that's a lot of what would intrigue them. Again, I've no sources. I know they were monitoring Jonah Jackson's market, but we got tipped off about 2 weeks ago on this show that there were concerns about how he did not finish the year healthy. And can he withstand 17 games? I mean, he's missed time. And then the amount of money he got paid like a guy like Damian Lewis's availability plus a high level production just wasn't there. So again, like it's going to be tough. We're going to have to watch him in division with the LA Rams, but I think the Cardinals, left guard is a position you can still find quality personnel, but you can't sit on your hands too long. Again, I keep going back to how much they've emphasized wanting to refortify the offensive line. Today was about securing deep defensive starters and depth. I think the next couple of days will be, where can we finish off our offense in preparation for, of course, the coronation of Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 4. The offense is about 80% built out. You need a tackle and a guard, and you need Marvin, but you're almost good to go there. Whereas the defense, you could pivot to a lot of different directions, and we saw that today. It's like, who's available, what position, let's go X, Y, and Z. The offense, it's mostly fully baked. You got to put the cherry on top with about 3 roles left.
Yeah, and they're not done rebuilding that defense, but it's rivaling, what the second year in Philly under JG they were doing. They started to add some talent on that defense after being pretty depleted the previous season. So they had 4 guys today, and then they add Gillikin back to the special teams and Chris Barnes back to the defense. Monty Ossenfort's burner putting the thumbs up, liked it. We're over 300 likes, I believe, for the show. So I think we will remain on as hosts of the show. Saul Bookman will not bring us into his office and fire us.
We've not been fired
as soon as he sees us.
Ray, $4.99 super chat. I know he's a sheet chicken, but I would take Lewis at left guard. Yeah, absolutely. And again, the lineman class still remains relatively deep in terms of starters, guys that I think can come in and help the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm with you. I think Lewis, among a couple other names that we mentioned, like, again, we expected Robert Hunt to get paid. Jonah Jackson got more money than I thought. I probably wouldn't have paid that. We'll see what happens. Danny, Redbirds $4.99. These signings are just fine. Little Giants D stack compared to last year. Things are looking up. We'll get sexy in the draft. Absolutely. Like we mentioned it. Building out the meat of the roster in free agency, handing the baton over to what has a chance to be the most impactful draft class in 20 plus years in Arizona. But again, you could not, if you were Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon and company, afford to sit out free agency again if you expected to contend for a winning record and a playoff spot next year. Because if they faltered, let's say they got 7 wins next year and they were close in a handful of games, it's going to be the difference between whether or not your depth is on par. If you had the extra defensive lineman, the extra cornerback. So I was ready and prepared. We were going to sit here and rip them for 2 hours if they did nothing, if they pulled a Dallas today. But they didn't. They meticulously added pieces, added starters from about 10 a.m. until the time the show kicked off. And kudos, because I don't think they're done.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're done as well. Of course, tampering period, the window remains open from now until Wednesday afternoon. So at the drop of a hat, if there's a big signing, guess who's firing up the microphones and the cameras again? This very show, PHNX Cardinals. Make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel. Already over 330 likes. Yeah. Monty Ossenfort's burner. F it. Let's just get to 500. Let's do it. Leave a like, as Johnny requests on screen here. But yeah, make sure you're subscribed. It's been a banner first day of tampering. I'm glad Johnny stuck with us after a slow first 90 minutes of the window being open. But Monty got to cooking. And the Cardinals have added talent. Never miss your favorite sports on Spotify and Megaphone. What is this?
Hey, if you real quick, we got 800 people here. Okay. We got 800 people here. If you have not done so already, download PHNX Cardinals, subscribe, follow wherever you get your podcasts. Bo and I, Damon and company, we are known to drop audio only bangers exclusive. So do yourself a favor. Of course, double dip if you missed the live show here on YouTube. Subscribe, leave us a 5-star. It helps the show exponentially. Set it and forget it on your smartphone, your mobile device. We would greatly appreciate it, Bo.
For award-winning producer Damon Dog, we got a D-back show coming up, PHNX D-backs. Tune into that. Get ready for the season. Plus, you got a Suns post-game show headed your way as well here on PHNX. Can't wait for that. For Johnny Venerable, I'm Bo Brack. Might be talking to you soon, but if we don't, we'll talk to you tomorrow on Tuesday here on PHNX Cardinals.
We all silly like the mayor.